Good morning, everyone. Dear students, today we will do the fifth chapter of the book Vistas, that is Evans Tries an O-Level by Colin Dexter. The story tells how a clever prisoner befalls the whole police department and manages to escape from the prison. Criminals like Evans can cheat the authorities and escape punishment as the officials lack alertness and intelligence. Main characters: the Secretary of the Examination Board, the Governor of HM Prison Oxford, James Evans, a prisoner who has escaped from the prison 3 times, Mr. Jackson, a senior prison officer, Mr. Stephens, a junior prison officer who has recently recruited, the Reverend S. McLeary, an invigilator, Mr. Carter, Detective Superintendent, Mr. Bell, Detective Chief Inspector. In this story, a prisoner named James Evans expresses his desire to have some sort of academic qualification while serving his imprisonment. He wants to take the O-level examination in German. O-level examination is ordinary certificate in secondary education. For about 10 months, a German teacher comes to teach him in the prison. Then the examination is arranged in the prison cell itself. A person named McLeary is engaged to invigilate during the examination. The governor of the prison himself makes all security arrangements lest the prisoner should escape during the exam. 2 prison officers are put to keep a watch on him. The person leaves with all the papers after the examination is over. But after he has left, it is found that Evans had escaped in the guise of the person and had left the badly wounded person behind in the cell. The person says that he knows where Evans had gone. He is at once sent in a police van to nab the prisoner. The person is bleeding badly and he is left at a hospital on the way. But later it is found that no such wounded person had come to the hospital. Now it is realized that it was not Evans who had escaped in the guise of McLeary, but it was Evans impersonating McLeary who had stayed in and befooled the entire prison staff. The blood that had been flowing from his head was not his own blood. It was the pig's blood that McLeary had cleverly managed to bring in. And the McLeary was not a person even. The real McLeary had been kept tied by the men of Ivan in his room since morning. At the end of the story, the governor is able to get hold of Evans in the room of a hotel. Evans is handcuffed and sent away with a prison officer in the prison van. But here again Evans gets the better of the governor. Both the prison officer and the prison van were part of the plan devised by the men of Evans. Evans had escaped from prison 3 times earlier also. Once again he is a free bird. That was why the prison officers used to call him Evans the Break. Let's continue. All precautions have been taken to see to it that the O-level German examination arranged in the prison for Evans doesn't provide him with any means of escape. It was in early March when the secretary of the examination board received the call from Oxford prison. It's a slight unusual request, Governor, but I don't see why we shouldn't try to help. Just the one fellow you say. When Evans was taking coaching for the last 10 months, it was the month of June, and the governor requested the secretary of the examination board that he must give a chance to Evans to appear in the exam. The secretary told that it would not be difficult as only one fellow was there. That's it. Chap called Evans started night classes in O-level German last September. Says he is dead keen to get some sort of academic qualification. Then the governor told the secretary that Ivans was taking coaching for the last September in German and he was dead keen to improve his academic qualification. Is he any good? He was the only one in the class, so you can say he has had individual tuition all the time. Would have cost him a packet if he would have been outside. Would cost him a packet means it would have been very costly if he had taken the coaching from outside. The governor told the secretary that only one fellow was taking the coaching. Well, let's give him a chance, shall we? That's jolly kind of you. What exactly is the procedure now? The governor asked the secretary what would be the process of the exam. Oh, don't worry about that. I will be sending you all the forms and stuff. What's the name? You say Ivans. The secretary told the governor that he must not bother. The secretary himself would manage all the things and he would send all the material. James Roderick Ivans, it sounded rather grand. Governor told him his complete name. It was James Roderick Ivans. Just one thing, Governor. He is not a violent sort of fellow. I don't want to know his criminal record or anything like that. Just then the secretary asked the governor that he must not have any record of violent activities. No, there is no record of violence. Quite a pleasant sort of chap. The governor told that he was quite humorous, but bit of a card really. One of the stars at Christmas concert. In Christmas celebrations, he had played the key role. Imitations, you know, the sort of thing Mike Yarwood. And he was very good in imitation also, just like Mike Yarwood. No, he is just a congenital kleptomaniac. The governor told that only one problem was there. Congenital means by birth. He was kleptomaniac. Kleptomaniac means thief. The governor was tempted to add something, but he thought better of it. Just then the governor thought that he must tell that Ivans had escaped from the prison 3 times, but then he thought that he would personally himself make security arrangements for that. He would look after that particular side of things himself. Presumably, said the secretary, you can arrange a room where. Presumably means I can guess. The secretary told that the governor would be able to give him separate room. No problem. He is in a cell of his own. Cell means room in a prison. The governor told that he had his own room. He would be there to appear in the exam. That's fine. We could easily get one of the persons from St. Mary Mag's to invigilate. The secretary told that from St. Mary Mag's church, one invigilator would come there to do the duty of invigilator. Fine, yes. They seem to have a lot of persons there, don't they? The 2 men chuckled good naturedly. Chuckled means laughter. After that, the secretary and the governor laughed. The secretary had a final thought. At least there is one thing. You shouldn't have much trouble keeping him incommunicado. The secretary told that the governor must keep him in contact with the help of speakers. The governor chuckled politely, reiterated thanks, and slowly cradled the phone. Ivans the Break, as the prison officers called him. Thrice he had escaped from prison, but for the recent waves of unrest in the maximum security establishment of he wouldn't now be gracing the governor's premises in Oxford. Ivans the Break. The people know Ivans because he had escaped from the prison 3 times. Now also he wouldn't have been gracing the prison if there hadn't been maximum security in the north part due to unrest. And the governor was going to make absolutely certain that he wouldn't be disgracing them. Now the governor was thinking that he would make maximum security so that Ivans would not disgrace them. Not that Ivans was a real burden, just a persistent nagging presence. It would be all right in Oxford, though the governor would see to it personally. Ivans was not a problem. He was not disobedient. But the governor thought that even then he would personally look to that. There was just a possibility that Ivans was genuinely interested in O-level German. Just then the governor thought that it was also possible that he wanted to improve his academic qualification. But that was slight possibility, very slight possibility. At 8:30 p.m. on Monday, 7 June, Ivan's German teacher shook him by the hand to the heavily guided recreational block just across from D Wing. Heavily guided recreational block was there from D Wing. Here, the German teacher shook hands with Evans at 8:30 on Monday, 7 June, because the exam was to be organized on 8th June. Good luck here, Evans. He told Evans good luck, pardon. But as Evans was not taking coaching, but he was making plan only of his escape, so he was not able to understand good luck in German. Good luck for tomorrow. Oh, thank you. I mean, Dunko. The German teacher told that you haven't a cat in hell's chance of getting through. Cat in hell chance means very little chance. There was no much chance of him getting through means to get successful. Here two meanings are there. One was there that it would not be possible for him to clear the exam. But the hidden meaning is that he would not be able to escape from there. I may surprise everybody. Evans told that he was able to surprise everyone. At 8:30 the following morning, Evans had a visitor, two visitors. At 8:30 on 8th June, two visitors came to Evans. He tucked his grubby string vest into his equally grubby trouser. Grubby means dirty. In his dirty trousers, he tucked his grubby vest and stood up from his bunk. Bunk means berth. He stood up from his berth, smiling cheerfully. Good morning, Mr. Jackson. This is indeed an honor. He told Jackson that it was proud for him that Jackson had come in his room. Jackson was the senior prison officer on D Wing, and he and Evans had already become warm enemies. He didn't like Evans as a prison officer. As Jackson's side stood Officer Stephen, a burly, surly-looking man. Burly means very strong. Very strong man was standing, who was Stephens, who had recently recruited to this profession. Jackson nodded curtly. Curtly means politely. How is our little Einstein this morning? He says to Evans as Einstein in a sarcastic way. Wasn't he mathematician, Mr. Jackson? Evans told that that Einstein was mathematician. I think he was a Jew. Then Jackson told that he is referring to him as a Jew. Evans' face was unshaven. He wore a filthy-looking red and white bobble hat upon his head. He was wearing dirty hat on his head. Give me a chance, Mr. Jackson. I was just going to shave when you burst in. Burst in means entered suddenly. He told Jackson that he must get out as Evans was going to shave. Which reminds me, Jackson turned his eyes on Stephens. Make sure you take his razor out of the cell when he has finished scraping that ugly mug of his. Just then, Jackson reminded Stephens that he must take razor from Evans when he had finished his shave. One of these days he will do us all a favor and cut his bloody throat. Otherwise, it was also possible that he would cut his own throat also. For a few seconds, Evans looked thoughtfully at the man standing remnant state in front of him. Just then, Evans was looking towards Jackson. A string of Second World War medals proudly paraded over his left breast pocket. Mr. Jackson, was it you who took my nail scissors away? Evans had already worried about his hands. He asked Jackson whether he had taken his nail scissors and your nail file too. Jackson told that he had taken his nail scissors and also his nail file. Look, for a moment, Evans' eyes smoldered dangerously. Smoldered means burnt. Evans' eyes were red with anger, but Jackson was ready for him. Jackson knew very well that he would be angry when he would think about his razor and nail file. But orders of the German Evans, Governor Evans, he leaned forward and leered, his voice dropping to a harsh contemptuous whisper. You want to complain? Jackson told that it was the orders of the governor, and he was bending towards Ivan. So he was speaking with a voice which was full of hatred. Contemptuous means full of hatred. And he told that if he wanted to complain, he could complain to the governor. Ivan shrugged his shoulders lightly. The crisis was over. The problem was solved. You have got half an hour to smarten yourself up. Evans, take the bloody hat off. Jen Jackson told that he must remove his dirty hat. Evans put his right hand lovingly on top of his filthy woolen and smiled sadly. Just then Evans put his right hand on the dirty hat and he told, "Do you know, Mr. Jackson, it's the only thing that has ever brought me any sort of luck in life." He told that it was a lucky hat and it was the symbol of good luck. Kind of a lucky charm. It was just like a charm. If you know what I mean. And today I thought with me exam and all that, I thought that he was going to appear in the exam, so he must wear that hat. Buried somewhere in Jackson was a tiny core of compassion, and Evans knew it. Evans knew very well that in the mind of Jackson there was some compassion, pity, and sympathy, and he would not allow him to remove the cap. Just that once, Shirley Temple. If there was one thing that Jackson generally loathed about Evans, it was his long wavy hair. Just get shaving. Jackson hated the thing Jackson hated the most. It was the long hair of Evans. So he thought that he must shave as early as possible. At 8:45 the same morning, the Reverend Stuart McLeary left his bachelor flat in Broad Street and stepped out briskly towards Carfax. At 8:45 on 8 June, the Reverend Stuart McLeary started from his bachelor room in Broad Street and he moved towards Carfax, where Oxford Prison was situated. The weatherman reported temperature considerably below the normal for early June, and a long black overcoat and a shallow clerical hat provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle which had set in half an hour early and which now spattered the thick lenses of the spectacles. It was drizzling from half an hour, and he was wearing a long coat and clerical hat, and the drizzling was there on his spectacles. In his right hand, he was carrying a small brown suitcase which contained all that he would need for his morning duties. All the material was there in the suitcase which could be needed for the examination, including a sealed question paper envelope, a yellow invigilation form, a special authentication card from the examination board, a paper knife, a Bible. He was to speak to the Women's Guide that afternoon on the Book of Ruth and a current copy of the Church Times newspaper. The 2 hours examination was scheduled to start at 9:15 a.m. The examination was to start at 15 a.m. Evans was lathering his face vigorously when Stephens brought in 2 small square tables and set them opposite each other in the narrow space between the bunk of one side and on the other a distempered stone wall. Just then he was shaving with force. Evans came in with the 2 square tables and he put those tables one towards his berth and another towards the distempered wall. Stephens brought in 2 hard chairs, the slightly less battered of which he placed in front of the table which stood nearer the cell door. Because one chair was for Evans and another was for the invigilator, the chair which was less battered he put for the invigilator. Jackson put in a brief final appearance, "Behave yourself, lad." Just then Jackson came for some time and he told that Evans must behave properly. Evans turned and nodded. Evans nodded in a positive. And these Jackson pointed to the pin-ups of. The pin-ups which was there, those must be removed. Evans turned and nodded again. "I was going to take them down away. A minister, isn't it, the chap coming in? Just then, Evans asked Jackson whether the man who was doing the duty of invigilator was a parson from the church. And how did you know that? Asked Jackson quietly. Jackson asked how did he knew. Well, I had to sign some forms, didn't I? I couldn't help. Evans told that he had signed some papers, and when he put the signature, he was able to know that. Evans drew the razor carefully down his left cheek and left a neat swathe in the white leather. Can I ask you something, Mr. Jackson? Why did they have to bug me in the cell? Bug me means close me. Just then he was shaving. He asked Jackson why he was closed in the room. He nodded his head vaguely to a point above the door. And a very neat job, conceded Jackson. Conceded means accepted. Jackson accepted that it was not a neat job. They are not. They don't honestly think I am going in to train. Then Evans asked why they were doubting again and again on him. They are taking no chances, Evans. Nobody in his senses would take any chance with you. Then Jackson told that because earlier also Evans had escaped 3 times, now they were not taking any type of risk. Who is going to listen in? Then the Evans asked about incommunicado, who was going to listen him on speaker. I will tell you who is going to listen in lad. It's the governor himself. He don't trust you a bloody inch. Jackson told that the governor would listen everything, whatever will be there in the room, because he would not take any chance. And nor do I will be watching you like a hawk, Evans, so keep your nose clean. And he told that he himself would watch just like a hawk. He walked toward the door. Evans nodded. He has already thought of that. And number 2 handkerchief was lying ready on his bunk. A neatly folded square of white linen cotton handkerchief was there on his bunk. Just one thing, Einstein, was that? Good luck, old son. After when he was going, Jackson told him good luck. In the little lodge just inside the prison's main gate, the Reverend S. McCleary signed his name neatly in the visitor book and then walked side by side with a silent prison officer across the exercise yard to Dewing, where he was greeted by Jackson. Just then, St. McCleary entered. He put signature on the reception, and then crossing the Dewing, he entered towards the exercise yard, and he was received by Jackson. The wing's heavy outer door was unlocked and locked behind him. The door was opened for him, and when he entered, the door was closed. The heavy inner door, the same heavy inner door, was also first of all was opened and then closed. McCleary was handed into Stephen's keeping. Jackson handed McCleary to Stephen's keeping. Get the razor, murmured Jackson. Jackson reminded again Stephens that he must take the razor. Stephens nodded. Well, keep your eyes scant clear. Then Jackson told that, be careful. Stephens nodded again, and McCleary, his feet clanging up the front stairs, followed his new guide and finally stood before a cell door where Stephen opened the peephole and looked through. Just then, Jackson took McCleary towards the room of Evans, and Stephen was also following, and he opened the peephole. That's him. He showed Evans to McCleary. Evans, facing the door, sat quietly at the farthest of the 2 tables. Evans was sitting at the farthest table, his whole attention diverted to a textbook of elementary German grammar. Stephen took the key from the ring, and the cell lock sprang back with a thudded metallic twang. Just then Stephens, with the help of key, opened the door of the cell in which Evans was sitting. We'll continue.